Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales by Moonlight. Please don't forget to like the video. Also, comment where you're watching from and subscribe to enable us bring fascinating stories to your ears. Thank you. This is another interesting African tale, so sit back, listen, and enjoy.
The house of Sterling stood proudly on the hills of Rivertown, a testament to generations of wealth, wisdom, and prosperity. Its large structure, adorned with lush gardens and beautiful architectures, this reflected the affluence and harmony that defined the Sterling's family. At the heart of this family were Edward Sterling and his 3 children, the spirited Jacob, the graceful Isabella, and the compassionate Grace. Edward Sterling was a man of considerable influence. He was known for his business acumen, which was sharp, also for his generous heart. His ventures in the business and commerce had not only made him a wealthy man, but also a respected figure in the society. His wife, Eliza, has passed away years ago, leaving him to raise their children with love and dedication. Jacob, the eldest, at 25, was a charismatic young man with a natural talent for leadership. He has also inherited his father's keen mind for business and has been groomed and learned the ways to be able to take over the family, both in enterprise and in commerce. Isabella, 23, was renowned for her beauty and artistic talents, often seen with a paintbrush in hand, capturing the world's splendors on her canvases. Grace, the youngest, at 19, possessed a nurturing spirit and was deeply involved in charitable works, always striving to help those less fortunate. The Sterling family lived in harmony, their days filled with laughter, intellectual discussions, and a shared sense of purpose. However, unknown to them, a shadow was about to be cast over their idyllic existence. Edward had always prided himself in his ethical dealings, but as the competition grew fiercer and the stakes became higher, he found himself drawn into a company of a group of businessmen whose method and ways were far from honorable. Among them was Victor Blackwood, a ruthless magnate with a desire for exploitation. Also, Darius Markov, a mysterious figure rumored to be involved in the ways of the occult. The proposition was enticing. Joint venture which promised profits on all corners. Against his better judgment, Edward agreed to the partnership, driven by the desire to secure his family's legacy. The deal was sealed with a cryptic contract, which Edward signed without fully understanding the dark forces he was invoking. As time passed, Edward began to notice strange occurrences. His once thriving business started to falter. Mysterious accidents plagued his ventures, and an air of unease settled over the Sterling household. It soon became evident that he had been deceived by his evil colleagues. The final blow came when Victor and Darius maneuvered and planned to strip Edward of his wealth and properties, leaving him destitute. Desperation set in, and Edward's health began to deteriorate at a faster pace. He was tormented by guilt, worried and tormented by nightmares. His once vibrant spirit, now a shadow of his former self. Edward's decline started the beginning of a series of tragic events. He fell gravely ill. Also, his body wasting away, despite the efforts of the best physicians in the country. Lo, it was a mysterious illness, a one that had seemed to sip the very life force from Edward. On his deathbed, Edward called for his children, his voice weak and filled with regrets. "My dear children," he whispered, "I have wronged you. I was blinded by greed and made a deal with the devil. You must find a way to undo the curse I have brought upon our family." With these final words, Edward passed away, leaving Jacob, Isabella, and Grace in a state of shock and grief. This once harmonious Sterling family was now fractured, with a future uncertain. In the days that followed, the same mysterious illness that has plagued Edward their father began to afflict others, starting with Isabella, whose vibrant health began to wane down. Her artistic hand growing frail and weak. Grace too was not spared. Her compassionate nature, unable to fight off the creeping dread that consumed her, made her feel desolate. Determined to save his sisters and restore their family's fortune again, Jacob sought the counsel of his uncle, Alexander Sterling. Alexander was an enigmatic figure, known for his vast knowledge of the ancient law and mystic practices. He has distanced himself from the family's business dealings, choosing instead to pursue a life of scholarly pursuits and alchemic studies. When Jacob arrived at his uncle's secluded estate, he found Alexander deep in study. Surrounded by ancient tones and cryptic symbols, "Uncle," Jacob pleaded, "our family is in grave danger. Father's dealings have brought a curse upon us, and I fear for Isabella and Grace. We desperately need your help." Alexander listened intently, his eyes revealing a depth of understanding. "Jacob, your father's actions have indeed unleashed dark forces. The path to redemption indeed will not be easy, but there is hope. We must delve and go to the origins of this curse and seek to reverse it through rituals and ancient practices. Thus began Jacob's arduous journey, guided by his uncle's wisdom and the strength of his resolve. They pored over ancient texts, seeking clues, performing intricate rituals in effort to break the curse. Their quest led them to forgotten places, where they encountered mystical guidance and faced trials that tested their courage and determination. As Jacob and Alexander delivered and went deep, their quest became to unravel. They discovered the full extent of Edward's misdeeds. Also, the contract he had signed was no ordinary contract. It was a business arrangement, but it was a binding pact with malevolent forces. Victor and Darius had used dark magic to trap Edward, hence exploiting his ambition and ultimately leading him to his demise. Through their research, Jacob and Alexander discovered that the key to breaking the curse lay in undoing the original bargain which was made by Edward. They needed to perform a series of purification rituals and seek forgiveness of the spirits wronged by Edward's actions. Their journey took them to ancient temples, caves, hidden groves, sacred sites, where they performed ceremonies. Each of these ceremonies fabricated to appease the vengeful spirits and cleanse the sterling bloodline of its taints. They faced numerous challenges, from uncovering cryptic prophecies to overcoming physical and spiritual trials. The final ritual required them to return to the very place where Edward had signed the curse contract. It was a desolate location, covered in darkness and reeking of malevolence. There, they were confronted by Victor and Darius, who had grown increasingly powerful through their nefarious dealings. Jacob and Alexander prepared meticulously, gathering sacred artifacts and invoking protective spells. On the night of the ritual, they stood before Victor and Darius, who sneered at their efforts. "You think you can undo what has been done?" Victor mocked. "The Sterling family is doomed, and there is nothing you can do to change that." Unfazed, Jacob and Alexander began the ritual, chanting incantations that resonated with ancient powers. The ground trembled, and a fierce wind blew around them as they invoked the spirit of justice and retribution. Victor and Darius attempted to counter the ritual with their own dark magic, but the combined strength of Jacob and Alexander, enforced by their love for their family, proved stronger. And as the ritual reached its climax, a blinding light covered the full area. The atmosphere bright, and the dark forces that had plagued the Sterling families vanished. Victor and Darius were consumed by their own malevolence, their powers extinguished, and their evil influence eradicated. With the curse broken, the mysterious illness afflicting Isabella and Grace began to dissipate and disappear. Their strength and vitality returned, and the Sterling family's fortunes were gradually restored. The business, enterprise, shops that had once faltered and fell by the curse began to thrive once more, and the family estates regained its former glory. Jacob, having proven himself as a leader and protector, took over the family enterprise with a renewed sense of purpose and integrity. Isabella continued to create her beautiful artworks, her talents now flourishing without the shadow of illness and crossing borders. Grace resumed her charitable endeavors, her compassion touching the lives of many. Under Jacob's leadership, the Sterling family not only regained their wealth, but also earned the respect and admiration of their community. They had emerged from their ordeal stronger and wiser, with a deeper appreciation for the values of honesty, humility, and resilience. Years passed, and the story of the Sterling's family's trials and triumph became a cherished legend in Rivertown. Jacob, Isabella, and Grace continued to honor their father's memory by living virtuous lives, using their wealth to better the world around them. Jacob often visited his uncle Alexander, who had returned to his peaceful scholarly pursuits. They would discuss the mysteries of the world and the lessons learned from their harrowing experience. The true wealth of a family, Alexander would say, lies not in gold or jewels, but in the strength of their bond and the purity of their deeds. Finally, the Sterling family's legacy endured a beacon of hope for generations to come. And so, the house of Sterling stood tall on the hills of Rivertown, a symbol of resilience, redemption, and the enduring power of love.